So for our topic this morning, we have language discourse. Okay. So for our learning objectives, at the end of the discussion, we will be able to discuss what language is. Letter B, identify and explain the four systems of language. Letter C, explain discourse analysis, turn taking, listenership, speech acts, and reframing. And the last one, give the different steps in conducting discourse analysis. Okay, so let's start. So let us have the etymology of the word language. So what do you mean by etymology? So etymology refers to origin or derivation of a certain word. So the term language comes from the Latin word lingua, which means tongue. Okay, so literally speaking, we make use of our tongue when we speak language. Okay, now language is a systematic means of communicating ideas or feelings by the use of conventionalized sounds, signs, gestures, or marks having understood meanings. So language is a means or a tool of communication in expressing our thoughts, our feelings, making use of signs, sounds, and gestures. Okay? So another definition we have here that language is a structured system of communication that involves the use of particularly human languages. Okay? So, structured system of communication. Okay, so we human beings can communicate because of language. And we communicate either verbally or non-verbally. So when we communicate verbally, we make use of words or language, either spoken or written. Now, non-verbally, on the other hand, is when we make use of signs and symbol. Okay, so that makes language a structured system of communication. Now, another definition here is that language is a system of conventional spoken and written symbols which people use in carrying out the affairs of the society. Now, we people have different activities every day. So we make use of this language in our daily activities, either in school, at home, at work, anywhere. Okay? Now, if you want to study different languages, you have to uh, study linguistics. So the scientific study of language is called linguistics. Okay. Now, moving on to language discourse. Discourse is one of the core systems of language. The others are vocabulary, grammar, and phonology. Now, what is vocabulary? Now, vocabulary refers to the body of words used in a particular language. So, vocabulary simply means words and their meaning. So, if you want to improve your vocabulary, you have to get acquainted with the different words and their meanings. Okay, so how about grammar? What is grammar? Now, grammar is the system and structure of a language. Now, in linguistics, grammar is the set of structural rules governing the composition of clauses, phrases, and words in a natural language. Now, there are hundreds of grammar rules, but the basics refer to sentence structure and parts of speech. So, what are these parts of speech? So, we have nouns, pronouns, what else? Verbs, uh, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, and conjunctions. So, that makes up the grammar. Now, the next one is phonology. Phonology deals with the systems of sounds within the language or between different languages. Now, phonology is the study of patterns of sounds in a language. So it is how language or dialects systematically organize their sounds. Okay. Now, discourse has variations of definitions. But one way of thinking about it is that discourse is any piece of extended language, written or spoken, that has unity, meaning, and purpose. So it can also be described as the expression of thought through language. So discourse is simply mean written or spoken communication. Okay? For example, something as short as two phrases in a conversation or a long extended essay are both examples of discourse, and both of them show various features of discourse. Now, discourse analysis. What speakers do in a conversation. Okay? So, discourse analysis is sometimes defined as the language or the analysis of language beyond the sentence. So this contrasts with the type of analysis more typical of modern linguistics, which are chiefly concerned with the study of grammar, the study of smaller bits of language, such as sounds. So these sounds are what we call phonetics and phonology, parts of words which we refer as morphology, meaning of the words which we call semantics, and the order of words in sentences is called syntax. So this course analysts study larger chunks of language as they flow together. Now, some discourse analysts consider the larger discourse context in order to understand how it affects the meaning of the sentence. So, for example, Charles Fillmore points out that two sentences taken together as a single discourse can have meanings different from each one taken separately. Now, moving on to reframing. Reframing is a way to talk about going back and reinterpreting the meaning of the sentence. So frame analysis is a type of discourse analysis that asks what activity speakers are engaged in. Now, turn taking. So turn taking is very important in a conversation. So we all know that conversation is an enterprise in which one person speaks and the other listens. So discourse analysts who study conversation note that speakers have systems for determining when one person's turn is over and the next person's turn begins. So this exchange of turns or floors is signaled by such linguistic means such as intonation, pausing, and phrasing. So some people wait for a clear pause before beginning to speak, but others assume that winding down is an invitation to someone else to take the floor. So when the speakers have different assumptions about how turn exchanges are signaled, they may interrupt or feel interrupted. On the other hand, speakers also frequently take the floor even though they know the other speaker has not invited them to do so. So that is turn taking. So in a conversation, you have to wait for your turn. Okay? Another important thing in a conversation is listenership. Okay? So listenership may be signaled in different ways. So some people expect frequent nodding as well as listener feedback such as uh, and yeah. So less of this than you expect can create the impression that someone is not listening. More than you expect, it can give the impression that you are being rushed along. For some, eye contact is expected nearly continually. For others, it should only be intermittent. Now, the type of listener response you get can change how you speak. If someone seems uninterested or uncomprehending, you may slow down, you may repeat it again, or over explain, giving the impression you are talking down. Okay? Now, discourse markers is the term linguists give to the little words like well, oh, but, and that break our speech up into parts and show the relation between parts. Realizing that these words can function as discourse markers, it is important to prevent the frustration that can be experienced if you expect every word to have its dictionary meaning every time it is used. Okay? Now, speech acts. Okay? Speech act analysis asks not what form the utterance takes, but what it does. Saying, for example, saying, I now pronounce you man and wife enacts a marriage. Studying speech acts such as complimenting allows discourse analysts to ask what counts as a compliment, who gives compliments to whom, and what other functions they can serve. Okay? Now, what is discourse analysis? Okay? Discourse analysis is a research method for studying written or spoken language in relation to its social context. So it aims to understand how language is used in a real life situations. So that is discourse analysis. Now, when you do discourse analysis, you might focus on the following. Number one, the purposes and effects of different types of language. Letter B, cultural rules and conventions in communication. Letter C, how values, beliefs, and assumptions are communicated. And letter D, how language use relates to its social, political, and historical context. Okay? Now, discourse analysis is a common qualitative research method in many humanities and social science disciplines, including linguistics, sociology, anthropology, psychology, and cultural studies. Okay? What is discourse analysis used for? Okay, conducting discourse analysis means examining how language functions and how meaning is created in different social contexts. So it can be applied to any instance of written or oral language, as well as nonverbal aspects of communication, such as tones and gestures. Now, materials suitable for discourse analysis include books, newspapers and periodicals. Letter B, marketing materials such as brochures and advertisements. Letter C, business and government documents. Letter D, websites, forum, social media posts, and comments. And letter E, it may include on the interview and conversations. Okay, so these are the materials that are suitable for discourse. For discourse analysis. Okay, by analyzing these types of discourse, researchers aim to gain an understanding of social groups and how they communicate. Now, how is discourse different from other methods? How is discourse analysis different from other methods? So unlike linguistic approaches that focus only on the rules of language use, discourse analysis emphasizes the contextual meaning of the language. So it focuses on the social aspects of communication and the ways people use language to achieve specific effects. For example, building trust, to create doubt, to evoke emotions, or to manage conflict. Okay? So instead of focusing on smaller units of language such as sounds, words, or phrases, this discourse analysis is used to study larger chunks of language, such as entire conversations, texts, or collections of texts. Okay. Now, I have here the level of communication, discourse analysis, and its level of communication, and what is analyzed. Okay. So in discourse analysis, we have, as I said a while ago, we have a vocabulary. Now, what is analyzed in vocabulary? Words and phrases can be analyzed. Okay. For grammar, the way that sentences are constructed. For example, verb tenses, active or passive construction of sentences, and the use of imperatives and questions, and also the different parts of speech are being analyzed. Okay? So in terms of structure, the structure of a text can be analyzed for how it creates emphasis or builds a narrative. Okay? Another one, we have genre. Text can be analyzed in relation to the conventions and communicative aims of their genre. For example, political speeches or tabloid newspaper articles. Okay? So we have here nonverbal communication. So nonverbal aspects of speech, such as tone of voice, pauses, gestures, and sounds like can reveal aspects of a speaker's intentions, attitudes, and emotions. So for conversational codes, the interaction between people in a conversation, such as turn taking, interruptions, and listener response, can reveal aspects of cultural conventions and social roles. Okay, so moving on, how to conduct discourse analysis. So here we are na in conducting discourse analysis. So there are many different approaches and techniques you can use to conduct discourse analysis. But the steps below, or the steps that we are going to discuss, are the basic steps that we need to follow. Okay, for our step one, okay, define the research question and select the content analysis. Okay, so to do discourse analysis, you begin with a clearly defined research question. Okay, so once you have developed your question, select a range of material that is appropriate to answer it. Okay, so that is step one. Okay, step two, gather information and theory on the context. Okay, next, you must establish the social and the historical context in which the materials was produced and intended to be received. So gather factual details of when and where the content was created, who the author is, who published it, and whom it was disseminated. So that is step number two. Gather information and theory on the context. Okay? So how about the next step? Step three. Analyze the content or analyze the content for themes and patterns. Okay, so this step involves closely examining various elements of the material, such as words, sentences, paragraphs, and overall structure, and relating them to attributes, themes, and patterns relevant to your research question. So that is step three. Okay. Now, for step four, review your results and draw conclusions. Okay. So once you have assigned particular attributes to elements of the material, reflect on your results to examine the function and meaning of the language used. Here, you will consider your analysis in relation to the broader context that you established earlier to draw conclusions that answers your research question. Okay, so these are the steps in conducting discourse analysis.